it's happened.
Okay, apparently what has happened to you?
Well, in 1973, I was playing in a park in Southern California in Mayboyer Park, and this is going to probably come out in one or more of the versions of the debriefing with me. I was playing baseball with my grandpa in the park, and I was having him throw me a ball so I could catch it over my shoulder. I was trying to run away at the same time that he would throw the ball so I could try to catch the ball like Willie Mays' famous catches. During one of these throws of the ball, I remember looking up toward the sun because it was high in the sky at the time. It was summertime. And glancing away because the sun was blinding me, looking down toward the grass, which was very bright green at the time, and then seeing a flash where the grass appeared to turn black. I appeared, from my perspective, I was covered in a shadow. The shadow reminded me of a triangular bat kite that I had played with my grandfather over the riverbed nearby. And that's the way I basically was able to describe it at the time. I was, 9? I was 9 at the time. Then I remember a flash. Immediately, there's a disjoint memory of this. It's not contiguous. Where I saw my grandfather sitting over by a tree several yards away from me. And the sun had clearly moved in its aspect to me, so time had clearly passed. The earth had moved and time had passed. At least several hours had passed. He was very shook up. I ran over to him, asked him what happened, and he didn't want to talk about it. He said, "You're okay now, you're okay now," and he wanted to go home. So he walked me home immediately over the overpass over Del Amo Boulevard, and we went home. This precipitated a major domestic upset between my grandparents and my mom and dad. Ultimately, this domestic upset resulted in my grandparents moving out. And around that same time, I was having unusual dreams. And in the dream, I would wake up. Do I think that there were probably dreams now? No. But I would wake up and I would walk from my bedroom through the restroom, which connected between my bedroom and a small laundry area that went to a doorway off the north side of our house. And to the right of that laundry area, there was a closet. That's the closet where my grandpa used to put his work jacket and his work boots. He worked at Gaffers and Sattlers as an enamel dipper, dipping pieces in enamel for manually for things like appliances, stoves, etc. And he would come home every day just covered in enamel dots all over his jacket and his boots. And I would open the door to that closet, and that's all I can remember from the dream. Mm-hmm. But I knew that I was meeting somebody called Harry. He was a little friend. And I know that as knowledge that I met a little friend there, but I have no visual memory of what Harry looked like. It was finally, because I finally told my mom and dad about it, and it was finally rationalized away that because I was still watching Sesame Street at the time, that was Oscar the Grouch. And that's the way my mom put it. She said, "You're thinking about Oscar the Grouch because he looks furry and hairy." And from that time on, as the dreams continued, I then remember seeing Oscar the Grouch in my dream, but not in the closet, in the restroom, or past the restroom. But I remember just seeing a picture of Oscar the Grouch, so I felt very calm about it after that. I accepted it as a boy.
So how? Okay, so you were abducted in something that you don't remember the details of. Is that the actual experience once?
Yeah, I told you what the
time.
actual memory of it from my boyhood. That is it. Now I remember possibly, and I'm not sure over the years whether this was confabulation or not, because I was a boy at the time. I think I remember seeing a tall person, like if you take a movie frame, like one frame, like a flash of a still picture, like an iconic memory almost, of a tall person standing next to him at the tree.
Next to your grandpa.
My grandpa, yeah.
Okay.
And he refused until the day he passed to discuss what happened. He would become extremely agitated. And John and Dodie for certain, who had many conversations with him, and maybe even John would...
this is your father and mother you're
yeah,
talking about.
They're my mom and dad that I grew up with. Now, I've learned certain things about my family since then that are really neither here nor there, having to do with who was actually biological father and biological mother and things like that. But they were my mom and dad. They're my mom and dad. I mean, they're the mom and dad that I remember growing up with, and I...
but they are not MJ1.
No.
Okay, but
no.
and MJ1, somehow this abduction experience seemed to have resulted in you becoming or being viewed as the son of MJ1. Is that correct?
Right. What happened is this. I also learned of what happened to me from Kaela, the J-Rod that I met at S4. He showed me from his perspective what had happened to me in 1973. I saw myself being pulled by my chest upward off the surface of the park. I saw my grandfather going like this and basically panicking, crying, because he wasn't able. My grandpa was very protective of me, and he wasn't able to protect me. And now I understand, God bless him, why he was so upset. The one person in his whole life that he knew that he would protect, that he loved that much to protect, he couldn't at that moment. And I understand why he was so upset. But the J-Rod showed me what happened to me, that I was picked up and that I was laid down on a table in some sort of a craft. And that this craft was a generally chevron-shaped, almost triangular shaped craft. And I was laid down next to a series of young people, one of which was in fact the son of the former MJ1. Something went wrong during the course of my time on board the craft when samples were being taken of me for their studies. And the son of the former MJ1 died. During that time, they put some sort of equipment on me. It almost looked like EEG type, a neural net, if you will, of receivers, probes, electrodes, if you will, on me. And they were trying to save, desperately trying to save, and I could see the movement of the J-Rods around this other boy. And I know what he looked like and all of that, because I was seeing it through the eyes of Kaela. They were trying to save him, and he ultimately passed. During that time, apparently they were trying with whatever technology that they employ to save the boy by storing him. That Kaela was with the P-45s at the time. These were P-45,000 J-Rods. And they looked at us, and they look at us as no more than containers or cylinders, almost like beakers full of material, of electromagnetic material. And so they were trying to store his energy, if you will. Right. Marcia suggested the word vessels. Right. They were trying to store him for a while, I guess, in me. Now, my memory of myself at the time was a rather dull boy that liked to play baseball and with G.I. Joes and things like that. The record of me at the time was that I had an okay acuity in science. That's what the elementary school teachers were saying. I don't remember having acuity like that in science, and there's a disjoint in my own story of myself because of this. Because after I was put down back in the park, over the course of the next couple of years, there were changes in me. But then again, there should have been, because I was growing up. But there was a substantive intellectual change in me, where I was no longer interested in those same things of my youth. Was that maturation? Probably some of it. Was it a change as a result of what was done with me on board the craft? The Majestic thinks so. Thinks that it had something to do with that other boy, because that other boy was known as very bright in the sciences. And all of a sudden, true enough, I got a hankering for Erlenmeyer flasks and boiling flasks and microscopes that I had never had before.
Okay, but
And I've possessed ever since.
on some level, the MJ1's son that was on the craft next to you, that possibly you received a soul transfer from, is the MJ group had to be cognizant of what was going on. In other words,
They knew that had happened.
and they